Mom dismissed my future plans and used my sister's house as the standard right there in the middle of Olivia's housewarming party, her voice cutting through the champagne buzz and forced laughter like a knife through silk. Stephanie stood in the center of Olivia's pristine marble foyer, gesturing grandly at the crystal chandelier, the imported Italian tile, the sweeping staircase that probably cost more than my entire annual salary. "Now this," she announced loud enough for all 40 guests to hear, "is what success looks like, not wasting time on ridiculous pipe dreams about opening some little coffee shop." The room went silent. Olivia's smile faltered for half a second before she recovered, touching Stephanie's arm in what looked like concern, but felt more like performance. Aaron, my boyfriend, tensed beside me, his hand tightening around his wine glass. Stephanie wasn't done. She turned to face me directly, her eyes glittering with something that looked almost like pleasure. "When are you going to stop embarrassing this family with your failures, Taylor? Your sister bought this house at 26. She has a real career, a real future. And what do you have? Student loans for a business degree you're not even using?" I smiled. Actually smiled, wide and genuine, and raised my glass to her. "You're absolutely right, Mom. This house is incredible." The confusion that flickered across Stephanie's face was delicious. She'd expected tears, maybe an outburst. Definitely not agreement. I took a slow sip of my champagne, let my gaze drift across the vaulted ceilings, the professionally decorated living room visible through the archway. Olivia's done so well for herself. 26 and already in a $500,000 home. That's really something. What nobody in that room knew, what Stephanie had no idea about as she basked in her moment of maternal superiority, was that I'd spent the last 3 months having coffee with Sean, Olivia's husband's business partner. Professional coffee, friendly coffee. The kind of coffee where someone accidentally mentions that the partnership agreement for their real estate development firm had some interesting clauses about personal liability. The kind where someone casually wondered aloud why Olivia insisted on putting the house solely in her name when Sean told me that her husband Charles had liquidated his entire trust fund for the down payment. I'd trusted Stephanie once, brought her my business plan 6 months ago, detailed and professional, asking not for money but for advice, maybe a connection or two from her decades in corporate banking. She'd laughed, actually laughed, and then spent Sunday dinner explaining to the entire family why I was living in a fantasy world, while Olivia sat there looking sympathetic in that particular way that made it clear she agreed. That was when I started paying attention. Really paying attention. Stephanie continued her speech, warming to her theme. Other guests started checking their phones, edging toward the hors d'oeuvres table, but she didn't notice. She was talking about bootstraps and realistic expectations, about how Olivia had worked 80-hour weeks at the consulting firm, sacrificed and planned. All true, technically. What she didn't mention was that Charles's family money had greased every wheel, that Olivia's promotion came 2 weeks after she started dating the senior partner's nephew. "Maybe you should take notes," Stephanie said, gesturing at me with her champagne flute. "This is what happens when you make smart choices instead of chasing fantasies." Aaron leaned close to my ear. "We can leave." "No," I said softly, still smiling. "I'm enjoying the party." Because I was. I was enjoying watching Stephanie perform, watching Olivia play gracious hostess in her glass palace, watching Charles work the room like he'd built this empire with his own 2 hands instead of his grandfather's portfolio. I was enjoying it because in my car, locked in the glove compartment, I had a folder. A very interesting folder that Sean had helped me compile during those friendly coffee meetings. Public records, mostly. Property liens, business filings, the kind of information that's freely available if you know where to look and what questions to ask. The kind of information that showed Charles and his business partner, Wesley, had personally guaranteed a $7 million construction loan on a luxury condo project. The same project that was currently 3 months behind schedule and hemorrhaging money due to permit issues and contractor disputes. The same project where, according to Sean, the bank was starting to make uncomfortable noises about calling in the guarantee. I caught Olivia's eye across the room and raised my glass again. She looked uncertain, maybe even slightly guilty. That was fine. She could feel however she wanted to feel. In 2 weeks, I had a meeting scheduled with Evan, the senior loan officer at Pacific Trust Bank, the one holding that construction loan. Evan, who happened to be my former roommate from college. Evan, who owed me several significant favors, and who was very, very good at asking difficult questions about personal assets during loan review processes. "You know what, Mom?" I said, my voice carrying just far enough. "You've inspired me. Really. I think it's time I got serious about my future, made some smart choices, built something real." Stephanie beamed, apparently missing the edge in my tone. "Finally, you're listening to reason." "Oh, I'm listening," I said. "I'm listening very carefully." Aaron touched my arm gently, questioningly. I covered his hand with mine and squeezed. He didn't know about the folder yet. Didn't know about the meetings with Sean, the casual conversations with Leah, the real estate attorney who'd confirmed exactly what would happen to personal assets when a business guarantee got called. Didn't know that I'd been planning this from the moment Stephanie laughed at my coffee shop dream. The party continued around us. Catered appetizers, designer cocktails, carefully curated guest lists. Stephanie held court by the fireplace, explaining to Wesley's wife about the importance of family standards and personal accountability. Olivia floated through rooms, touching furniture like she was blessing it, talking about the custom window treatments and the imported fixtures. I smiled and nodded and made small talk with people I barely knew. I admired the house, agreed it was beautiful, asked Olivia about her decorator. I was pleasant and appropriate and utterly forgettable. And in 2 weeks, I would help Pacific Trust Bank understand that $7 million in personal guarantees against a failing construction project meant that this house, this perfect showcase of success and smart choices, would need to be liquidated to cover the debt. I would watch Stephanie's face when Olivia had to explain why she was suddenly selling her dream home after 6 months. I would listen to her try to spin it, to explain it away, to find someone else to blame. I wouldn't say a word. Wouldn't gloat. Wouldn't even bring up the coffee shop or the business plan or that Sunday dinner where she'd made me feel about 2 inches tall. I'd just smile. The same smile I was wearing now as I raised my glass one more time in toast to Olivia's beautiful, temporary, highly mortgaged success. "To family," I said. "To family," Stephanie echoed, missing everything. The Monday after Olivia's party, I sat across from Sean at our usual coffee shop. Not the trendy place near Olivia's house, a quiet spot near the financial district where nobody we knew ever came. "You sure about this?" Sean asked, sliding a manila envelope across the table. "Once Evan starts asking questions, there's no putting this back in the box." I opened the envelope. Inside were copies of the construction loan documents, the personal guarantee agreement signed by both Charles and Wesley, and the project status reports showing the condo development bleeding money. I'm sure. Wesley's my partner. This is going to hurt him too. Then maybe he shouldn't have personally guaranteed $7 million on a project that was doomed from the start. I met Sean's eyes. "You warned them, didn't you?" He nodded slowly. 3 times. Charles kept saying his family connections would smooth everything over. Wesley just followed his lead. "Not your fault they didn't listen." I tucked the envelope into my bag. "You're protected, right? You didn't sign the guarantee." "No, I learned a long time ago not to bet my house on Charles's optimism." Sean stirred his coffee, not drinking it. "Your sister's going to lose everything." She made her choice when she sat at that dinner table and nodded along while Mom ripped apart my business plan. The words came out harder than I'd intended. She chose to be cruel. Now she gets to be careful. My phone buzzed. A text from Stephanie. "Lunch Thursday? Want to discuss your career options?" I showed it to Sean. He winced. She doesn't know when to stop, does she? She thinks she won, that I finally learned my lesson. I typed back a quick acceptance. Let her think that a little longer. The meeting with Evan was scheduled for Wednesday. I'd sent him the preliminary documents Friday, framed as a concerned citizen tip about potential loan fraud. Evan had called me Saturday night, voice tight with professional excitement. "Taylor, if even half of this checks out, we have grounds for an immediate portfolio review. The bank's been nervous about this loan for months." Now I just had to wait and have lunch with Stephanie. Thursday afternoon found me at Stephanie's favorite restaurant, the kind of place with cloth napkins and prix fixe menus. She was already seated, looking pleased with herself. I've been making calls, she announced before I'd even ordered. My colleague Alexis runs the Downtown Development Fund. They're looking for administrative assistance. It's not glamorous, but it's a real job with benefits. I can get you an interview. That's thoughtful, Mom. Someone has to look out for you. She sipped her wine. Olivia mentioned you seemed off at the party. I hope you're not still sulking about the coffee shop nonsense. I cut into my salmon carefully. Actually, I've been thinking about what you said. About building something real. Stephanie brightened. Finally. You know, there's nothing wrong with starting small, working your way up. That's what I did. Right. Smart choices. Careful planning. I paused. Speaking of planning, how's Charles's business doing? The question landed wrong. Stephanie's expression flickered. Fine. Why? Just curious. Real estate development seems risky right now. Market's uncertain. Charles knows what he's doing. He has excellent instincts. But she was defensive now. Uncomfortable. Of course. I smiled. I'm sure everything's fine. My phone buzzed in my purse. A text from Evan. Portfolio review initiated. Meeting with loan committee tomorrow. I excused myself to the restroom, heart racing. In the mirror, I looked calm, collected. The old tailor would have been terrified at this point, would have second-guessed everything, maybe even called it off. But the old tailor hadn't spent Sunday dinner listening to Stephanie explain to extended family why some people just weren't cut out for entrepreneurship. Hadn't watched Olivia smirk into her wine glass while Mom suggested, maybe I should consider going back to school for something practical, like accounting. When I returned to the table, Stephanie was on her phone, frowning. Everything okay? I asked. Olivia. She's stressed about something with Charles's business. I told her she worries too much. Stephanie set down her phone. Anyway, about that interview with Alexis. I'll think about it, I said. Let me check my schedule. What I didn't tell her was that my schedule included a follow-up meeting with Evan on Monday. Or that Sean had just texted me confirming Wesley had received a formal notice from Pacific Trust requesting updated financial statements and asset documentation. Or that Leah, the real estate attorney, had already prepared preliminary paperwork for what she called involuntary asset liquidation procedures. The dominoes were falling. Stephanie just couldn't hear them yet. That night, Aaron finally asked the question he'd been holding back. What are you doing, Taylor? We were in my apartment, cheap furniture and student loan statements on the counter. The contrast to Olivia's marble palace wasn't lost on me. What do you mean? You've been different since the party. Secretive. And I saw you with Sean at the coffee shop Tuesday. Don't lie. My office is across the street. I could have deflected. Should have, maybe. Instead, I told him everything. The meetings, the documents, the loan guarantee, what was coming. He listened in silence. When I finished, his face was unreadable. Say something, I said. Your sister's going to lose her house. Yes. And you planned this, deliberately. Yes. Aaron stood, paced to the window. This isn't you. No, I agreed. The old me would have cried in the bathroom at that party, would have believed Stephanie when she said I was embarrassing the family, would have given up on the coffee shop and taken that administrative assistant job and spent the rest of my life being the cautionary tale at family dinners. So this is who you are now? Someone who destroys her sister's life? Someone who doesn't let people destroy mine first. I kept my voice steady. Olivia made a choice, Aaron. She could have defended me, could have told Mom to back off. Instead, she piled on. She enjoyed watching me squirm. And this makes you better than her how? The question stung because it was fair, but I'd made my choice weeks ago and I wasn't turning back now. It doesn't, I said quietly. But it makes me even. Aaron left that night, not dramatically. He just kissed my forehead and said he needed time to think. I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat at my laptop reviewing every document, every timeline, every potential point of failure in what I'd set in motion. The fear hit me around 3 a.m. Real, visceral fear. What if I was wrong? What if the loan committee decided the project was salvageable? What if Charles's family connections actually did smooth things over? What if I'd burned every bridge for nothing? I called Evan at 8 a.m. Please tell me I didn't imagine the problems with that construction loan, I said without preamble. He laughed, surprised. Taylor, the loan committee met for 4 hours yesterday. This isn't smoke. It's a 5-alarm fire. The project is 14 weeks behind schedule. They've burned through their contingency fund, and the general contractor just filed a mechanics lien for unpaid invoices. Charles and Wesley are personally liable for $7.2 million, and their primary asset is residential real estate. The relief was dizzying, so it's really happening. Barring a miracle, yes. The bank's initiating foreclosure proceedings on the commercial property next week. Personal assets are next. I thanked him and hung up. Sat there in my kitchen, hands shaking, wondering if this feeling was victory or something much worse. My phone rang. Olivia. We need to talk, she said. No preamble, no sisterly warmth. What did you do? I don't know what you mean. Don't play stupid, Taylor. The bank is crawling all over Charles's business. Someone fed them information. Sean said you've been asking questions. I stayed silent. Did you do this? Her voice cracked. Did you actually sabotage your own sister because Mom hurt your feelings? She didn't hurt my feelings, Olivia. She humiliated me, at your party, in front of everyone we know, and you stood there and let it happen. So you're trying to take my house? I'm not trying to do anything. I pointed a bank toward publicly available information about a bad loan. What they do with that information is their business decision. You vindictive, she caught herself. We need to meet. Today. 2 hours later, I sat across from Olivia at a Starbucks. She looked perfect, as always. Designer bag, manicured nails, the kind of effortless polish that came from never having to check your bank balance before ordering coffee. How much? She asked. Excuse me? How much to make this go away? You want money for your coffee shop? Fine. I'll talk to Charles. We can make a loan. You think I want money? I leaned forward. Olivia, your husband personally guaranteed a failed construction project. That's not something I did to you. That's something Charles did to himself. But you told the bank. The bank was going to find out eventually. I just accelerated the timeline. Her hands trembled around her latte. We'll lose everything, yes. And you're okay with that? I thought about the question, really thought about it. Was I okay with Olivia losing her perfect house, her perfect life, her position as Stephanie's golden child? Ask me something else, I said. Ask me if I'm okay with what you did. What I did. That Sunday dinner, 6 months ago, when I brought Mom my business plan. I was so excited, Olivia. I'd worked on it for a year. Research, projections, everything professional and thorough. And Mom laughed, made jokes about my coffee shop fantasy, while Dad looked uncomfortable and you... I had to stop, swallow hard. You smiled, like it was funny, like I was funny. Taylor. And then at your party, when Mom was tearing me apart in front of your friends, you touched her arm, like you were trying to comfort her, like I was the problem that needed to be managed. Olivia looked away. She's our mother. What was I supposed to do? Defend me, stand up for me, literally anything except pile on. I didn't pile on. Your silence was loud enough. I stood. The bank makes its own decisions, Olivia. If your house is at risk, that's because Charles made bad business choices, not because I pointed them out. I left her there, walked to my car without looking back, hands steady now, doubt evaporating with each step. That evening, Stephanie called. Olivia is hysterical, she said. She says you're trying to ruin Charles's business. That's not accurate. Then what's accurate? Because I just spent an hour listening to her cry about losing her house. What's accurate is that Charles personally guaranteed a failing construction project, and the bank is exercising its legal right to review the loan status. Everything else is family drama. Family drama? Stephanie's voice went sharp. Your sister is suffering, and you're calling it drama? Was it drama when you laughed at my business plan? When you told the whole family I was wasting my life? When you used Olivia's party to publicly shame me? Silence. Then, that was constructive criticism. No, Mom, that was cruelty. And you enjoyed it. I was trying to help you face reality. You were trying to make yourself feel superior by tearing me down. There's a difference. I paused. And now reality is facing Olivia, and suddenly it's not so constructive anymore. If your sister loses that house, it will destroy her. Then maybe she should have thought about that before she married someone who bets houses on construction projects. I kept my tone even, factual. Or before she participated in humiliating me for trying to build something. This is about revenge. No, Mom, this is about consequences. Something you never taught either of us because Olivia never had to face them. I hung up before she could respond. Aaron came back 3 days later, let himself in with his key, found me on the couch with my laptop, reviewing paperwork for my coffee shop lease. The space I'd been quietly negotiating for while everyone assumed I'd given up. You're really doing it, he said. The coffee shop. Yes. He sat beside me. And you're really going through with the rest of it? Yes. Even knowing what it's going to cost them. I closed the laptop. Aaron, I spent 6 months believing my family when they said I was a failure, that my dream was stupid, my plans unrealistic. I almost gave up. Actually sat down with applications for administrative assistant jobs because maybe they were right. But you didn't give up. No, because I got angry instead. And anger is more useful than shame. He nodded slowly. Evan told me the bank is moving forward. Foreclosure on the commercial property next week. Personal assets within 30 days. How do you know Evan? I called him. Told him I was your boyfriend and needed to understand what was happening. Aaron took my hand. He said you gave them everything they needed to protect themselves from a bad loan. That you probably saved the bank from massive losses. That was the idea. He also said you've been helping Sean document everything, making sure the case against Charles and Wesley is airtight. Sean doesn't deserve to go down with them. No, Aaron agreed. But your sister does? The question hung between us. My sister stood by while Stephanie destroyed my confidence, I said finally. She benefited from being the good daughter, the successful one, the one who made smart choices. She built her entire identity on being better than me. So yes, she deserves to learn what it feels like to be the failure. Aaron was quiet for a long moment. Then, okay. Okay? I don't agree with what you're doing, but I understand why you're doing it. And I'm not leaving you. He squeezed my hand. Just promise me one thing. What? When this is over, when they've lost everything and you've won, promise me you'll let it be enough. That you won't spend the rest of your life being the person who destroyed her family. I'm not destroying my family, Aaron. I'm just refusing to be their punching bag anymore. He pulled me close. I know, but make sure you know the difference. The foreclosure notice hit Charles's commercial property on a Tuesday. By Wednesday afternoon, Stephanie was at my apartment door. I didn't want to let her in, but curiosity won. She looked smaller somehow, older. The imperious confidence I'd spent 28 years watching her wield was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like fear. Please, she said. Just tell me what I can do to fix this. There's nothing to fix, Mom. The bank is calling a loan. That's business. Olivia is falling apart. She hasn't slept in 3 days. Charles is barely functioning. I'm sorry to hear that. Stephanie's composure cracked. Don't do this. Please. Whatever I did, whatever I said. You stood in front of 40 people and called my life's work a ridiculous pipe dream. You told me I was embarrassing the family. You made me feel worthless for having ambition that didn't look like Olivia's. I kept my voice level. And when I smiled instead of crying, you didn't even notice something was wrong. You just assumed you'd finally broken me. I was pushing you to be realistic. No, you were pushing me to be small. There's a difference. I'm your mother, then act like it. The words came out harder than I'd intended. Mothers support their daughters. They don't weaponize them against each other. They don't publicly humiliate them to make a point. Stephanie's eyes filled with tears. Real tears, maybe the first I'd ever seen from her. What do you want from me? Nothing. That's the point. I don't need anything from you anymore. Taylor, if Olivia loses that house, she'll survive. People lose houses every day. They downsize, they rebuild, they learn from their mistakes. I paused. Maybe it'll be good for her. Character building. You don't mean that. But I did. I absolutely did. Stephanie left without another word. That Friday, Pacific Trust formally notified Charles and Wesley that they were exercising their right to pursue personal assets to cover the defaulted loan. Leah called me with the update. They've got 30 days to settle the debt or prove they can pay, she said. Given the asset-to-liability ratio, that's not happening. The bank will petition for forced sale of all substantial assets, including the primary residences. How long until the house actually goes? 3 to 4 months, probably, maybe 6 if they fight it. But fighting costs money they don't have. I thanked her and hung up. Sat there in my kitchen, waiting to feel something. Triumph, maybe? Or guilt. Instead, I just felt tired. My phone rang. Olivia. I know you're behind this, she said. Sean finally told me everything. The meetings, the documents you helped him compile, how you fed everything to the bank. Sean shouldn't have done that. He felt guilty, said you'd manipulated him. I asked him for information that was already public record. If he feels guilty, that's his conscience, not my manipulation. You planned this. From the beginning. At my party, you already knew what you were going to do. Yes. The admission seemed to stagger her. Silence stretched between us. Why? She finally asked. What did I ever do to you that deserved this? You want a list? I laughed, sharp and bitter. How about every time Mom compared us and you preened while I wilted? Every time she praised your choices while mocking mine and you just sat there soaking it in? That party was just the final straw, Olivia. You've been feeding off my failure your entire life. That's not fair. No? Tell me one time you defended me. One single time you told Mom to back off. Silence. That's what I thought, I said. I'm going to lose my home, Taylor. My marriage is falling apart. Charles barely looks at me anymore. And I'm supposed to feel sorry for you? I'm your sister. Then maybe you should have acted like it. I ended the call. That night, Aaron found me crying. Not sad crying, angry crying, furious, shaking, cathartic tears that I'd been holding back for weeks. I hate that I care, I said. I hate that part of me feels bad for her. That means you're still human, Aaron said quietly. That's not weakness. It feels like weakness. It's not. Olivia's the one who's weak. She built her entire life on other people's money and your humiliation. You built something real. The coffee shop lease was signed, equipment ordered, permits filed. In 6 weeks, I'd open the doors to the thing Stephanie had called a ridiculous pipe dream. And I'd do it without family money, without connections, without anything except my own work and planning. Sunday morning, Stephanie called again. I almost didn't answer. The bank is taking the house, she said without preamble. Olivia has 90 days to vacate. I know. She's devastated. I imagine so. Taylor, please, I'm begging you. Call off whatever you've done. Talk to the bank. Fix this. I can't fix what Charles broke, Mom. Yes, you can. I know you can. You're smarter than all of us thought. I was always this smart, I interrupted. You just never bothered to notice. Then prove it. Show us you're better than this. That you're better than revenge. And there it was. The thing I'd been waiting for without knowing it. The moral superiority, the high ground, the implication that I was the one in the wrong. No, I said simply. No? You don't get to decide who I am anymore, Mom, or what I'm capable of, or whether my choices are good enough. I paused. I spent 28 years letting you define my worth. That ends now. This isn't you talking. This is anger. Yes, it is. And it's also me. Both things can be true. I took a breath. Olivia loses her house in 90 days. The bank makes that decision, not me. If you want someone to blame, blame Charles for overextending himself. Or blame yourself for raising daughters who only know how to tear each other down. I never taught you to be cruel. No, you just modeled it perfectly. I hung up. The foreclosure sale was scheduled for a Thursday in March. I didn't plan to go. Didn't need to see Olivia's face when strangers walked through her marble foyer, making offers on her perfect life. But Evan called me the day before. "You should know," he said carefully. Stephanie tried to buy the note from the bank. Wanted to pay off Charles's debt and keep the house in the family. My stomach dropped. And the bank declined. The total exposure is too high, and Stephanie doesn't have enough liquid assets to cover it. Even if she did, there's the commercial property debt, the contractor liens, other obligations. It would take close to $9 million to make everything whole. So it's really happening. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. I told myself I wouldn't go. Told Aaron I had supplier meetings for the coffee shop. Told myself I was better than gloating. I went anyway. The foreclosure auction was in the courthouse, sterile and administrative. Nothing dramatic, just a clerk reading legal descriptions while bidders raised numbered cards. I sat in the back, baseball cap pulled low, watching Olivia and Charles near the front. He looked hollow, defeated. She looked numb. Stephanie wasn't there. Neither was Wesley or his wife Alexis. The bidding started at $400,000. Within minutes, it climbed to $550,000. A developer won with a bid of $615,000, well below what Olivia and Charles had paid, but enough to satisfy the bank's immediate claim. "Sold," the clerk announced. Olivia's shoulders shook. Charles put his arm around her, but the gesture looked mechanical, empty. I left before they saw me. The coffee shop opened 2 weeks later. Small ceremony, just Aaron and a few friends. Leah came, surprisingly. So did Sean, who'd officially dissolved his partnership with Wesley and was starting fresh. "How does it feel?" Sean asked, looking around at the exposed brick, the carefully curated menu boards, the espresso machine I'd researched for 6 months. "Like proof," I said. That Stephanie was wrong. She still won't admit it, you know. I ran into her at the grocery store last week. She's telling everyone that you sabotaged Olivia out of jealousy. Let her tell people whatever helps her sleep at night. What I didn't tell Sean was that Stephanie had left 3 voicemails that week, each one progressively more desperate, asking me to help Olivia, to use my business connections to find her sister a job, to somehow fix the disaster I'd supposedly caused. I deleted them without responding. A month after opening, the coffee shop was breaking even, not profitable yet, but sustainable. Better than I'd projected, actually. I hired 2 part-time baristas and started working on the catering menu expansion. Aaron proposed on a Tuesday night right there behind the counter after closing. No dramatic production, just him on one knee with a simple ring and a question I'd been waiting for. "Is this going to be enough?" he asked after I said yes. "The shop, me, the life we build together? Can it be enough without them?" "It's more than enough," I said. "It's mine." That Saturday, I ran into Olivia at the grocery store. She looked different. Cheaper clothes, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail instead of her usual salon styling. She saw me and froze. "Nice store," I said, gesturing at the discount chain we were both shopping at. "Good prices." Her face crumpled. Don't what? Gloat, please. I know you've won. You don't have to rub it in." I looked at my sister, my older sister, the golden child, the standard I'd been measured against my entire life, and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, no anger. Just a vague distance, like she was a stranger I used to know. "I'm not gloating, Olivia. I'm grocery shopping. At the discount store. Just like me now. That must make you so happy." "Actually, I shop here because it's close to the coffee shop and the produce is fresh. But you can believe whatever you want." She grabbed my arm. "I'm sorry, okay? Is that what you want to hear? I'm sorry I didn't defend you. Sorry I let Mom treat you like that. Sorry for everything." "Okay." "Okay?" She looked stunned. "That's it? I apologize and you just say okay? What do you want me to say, Olivia? That I forgive you? That we can go back to being sisters and pretend none of this happened?" "I want..." She stopped, tears streaming. "I want my life back. That's not something I can give you. I never could." I gently removed her hand from my arm. Charles made bad business decisions. The market crashed his project. The bank protected its interests. None of that was me. You helped them. You gave them everything they needed. I gave them information that was already public. If Charles's business couldn't survive basic scrutiny, that's not my fault. You wanted this. Admit it. You wanted me to lose everything. I thought about the question. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. I wanted you to understand what it felt like. To have everything you'd built, everything you'd worked for, dismissed as worthless by the people who were supposed to support you. I wanted you to know how I felt that Sunday dinner, and at your party, and every other time Stephanie used my dreams as a punchline while you smiled. And now that I know, now that I've lost my house and my marriage is falling apart and Mom won't even speak to me because I embarrassed her? What now, Taylor? Now you rebuild. Get a job, find a cheaper apartment, figure out who you are when you're not Stephanie's perfect daughter. I paused. Or don't. That's your choice. But either way, it's not my problem anymore. I left her there, tears running down her face, looking small and lost in the discount grocery store. I didn't look back. 6 months later, the coffee shop was profitable. Not massively. I wasn't buying marble foyers or designer handbags, but solidly, sustainably in the black. I'd hired 4 full-time employees, started doing weekend catering, and was negotiating a contract to supply coffee to 3 local offices. Aaron and I got married in the coffee shop on a Sunday morning. Small ceremony, 20 people, fresh pastries from my ovens, and espresso from the machine I'd bought with my own money. His parents came, beaming. My dad showed up alone, hugged me tight, whispered that he was proud. Stephanie wasn't invited. Neither was Olivia. Don't you feel bad? Aaron's mother asked me during the reception. About your mother missing this? No, I said honestly. She made her choices. I made mine. I'd heard through Dad that Olivia was working retail now. Charles had moved back in with his parents, the marriage officially over. Wesley had filed for bankruptcy. Stephanie had taken early retirement from the bank, her reputation damaged by association with her son-in-law's failed business dealings. The Marble Palace had sold to a tech executive for $750,000. Olivia didn't see a penny. It all went to covering debts. Sean stopped by the shop occasionally, always friendly, never mentioning the documents he'd helped me compile. He'd started a new real estate consultancy, smaller and more careful. Learned my lesson about flashy partners, he told me once. Leah became a regular customer, always ordering the same vanilla latte and working on her laptop for hours. We never talked about the foreclosure proceedings she'd helped navigate. Didn't need to. A year after my wedding, Dad invited me to Sunday dinner. Just the 2 of us at a quiet Italian place. Your mother wants to talk, he said carefully. She's been in therapy. Says she understands now how she hurt you. Good for her. Taylor? Dad, I'm not interested. She had 28 years to understand how her words affected me. She chose cruelty instead. I'm glad she's working on herself, but that doesn't obligate me to give her another chance to hurt me. He nodded slowly. And Olivia? She's apparently doing better. Got promoted to assistant manager at the store, found a small apartment she can afford. I'm happy for her. But you're not interested in reconnecting. No, I met his eyes. They taught me that love is conditional, Dad. That I was only valuable when I met their standards. I don't need that in my life anymore. They're family. So are you, and you're here, supporting me, proud of what I built. That's family. The other stuff? That's just biology. He reached across the table, took my hand. I should have defended you more. Should have told your mother to stop comparing you girls. Yeah, I agreed. You should have. But you're here now. That counts. The coffee shop grew. I opened a second location across town, hired a manager so I could focus on development. Started teaching business workshops at the community college, the same college where I'd gotten my degree while Stephanie mocked me for wasting time on education. One of my students was a young woman named Autumn. Quiet, nervous, full of ideas she was afraid to voice. She reminded me of someone. What's your dream? I asked her after class one day. A bakery, she said quietly, but my mom says it's not realistic, that I should get a real job first, build up savings. I pulled out my business plan, the one Stephanie had laughed at, handed it to Autumn. Read this. Study it. If you're serious, come back in 2 weeks and show me your own plan. I'll help you figure out funding. Her eyes widened. Really? Really? But you have to do the work. No shortcuts, no excuses. If you want this, prove it. She came back in 10 days with 40 pages of research and projections. 6 months later, her bakery opened 2 blocks from my second coffee shop. We cross-promote, share suppliers, support each other. That's what family should look like, I think. People building each other up instead of tearing each other down. I ran into Stephanie once, about 18 months after my wedding. A bookstore of all places. She looked older, tired, saw me and started to walk away, then stopped. Your father says the coffee shop is doing well, she said stiffly. Both locations are. We're looking at a third. She nodded. I'm glad. Are you? She stopped, struggled visibly with whatever she wanted to say. I was wrong about your business plan, about calling it a pipe dream. You were right, and I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Okay. That's all? Just okay? What do you want, Mom? Absolution? Permission to feel better about yourself? I shook my head. I'm not interested in making this easier for you. You hurt me, repeatedly, deliberately. And when I finally stood up for myself, you called it revenge and sided with Olivia. She lost everything. Because her husband made terrible business decisions, not because I exposed them. I paused. You taught me that actions have consequences. I learned that lesson. Both of you did too, apparently. So that's it? You're just going to hate us forever? I don't hate you, Mom. I don't feel anything about you at all anymore. That's what you don't understand. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. I walked away. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. That night, I locked up the original coffee shop location and stood for a moment in the quiet space. Breathed in the smell of coffee and fresh pastries, listened to the hum of the refrigerator, touched the espresso machine that had required 3 months of savings to buy. Aaron met me at the door. Ready to go home? Yeah, I said, taking his hand. I'm ready. We walked past the brass plaque I'd installed over the door. Simple, elegant, true. Taylor's Coffee Company founded 2026. Built on belief in better, not better than Olivia. Not better than Stephanie's expectations. Just better than the version of myself who'd believed them when they said I couldn't. That was enough. That was everything. And if somewhere across town, in a discount apartment, my sister was learning the same lesson about building yourself up from nothing, well, that was her story to tell. Not mine anymore. I had my own ending. And it was exactly what I'd planned.